welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake LaMore, and this is a bonus episode with the Kankakee Valley Theater Association, where we talk about one of their upcoming shows. And hopefully you're listening to this before this next one, which is coming up here at the end of July 2024. And I'm welcomed by Sharla Ranchetto once again.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
We first had you on, it's been a year and a half since In the Heights.
Yes.
And that was a great show.
Thank you.
Got a chance to see it, and I'm really glad I did. And I really commend that whole cast on, man, the dedication to learn that show was I was just blown away by, I was probably feeling what they were feeling. I was feeling overwhelmed watching it just because I'm like, man, if I was in this show, I would be so nervous right now. And like just in all the rehearsals, trying to learn the words and the dances and then just all of that stuff. So
yeah, they were a fabulous cast.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
They were. So, but you are here to talk about the Hello Girls.
Yes.
I almost said the Call Girls, and that's
totally
another
different.
That's a totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah, we're not talking about that, but no, the Hello Girls. And I can't remember. KVT has kind of done summer shows here and there, right? There hasn't been like a progressive history of doing one every summer, but
we did one, I think 2 years ago, the Patsy Cline one. We do them occasionally. This is an out of season show, so it is considered a fundraiser since it's not part of the regular season. But we decided that we wanted to do this show. It commemorates the 110th anniversary of the start of World War I. And we figured that was a good time to go ahead and do this show since it's about World War I.
And this particularly is about the board switchboard operators,
yes, it's
right?
about the female telephone switchboard operators during World War I.
And I would imagine that must have been a crazy job.
Oh, yeah.
And this is specifically for like in the military, right? This isn't just in general switchboard operators. This is specifically. So I'm sure you must have done some research on this. Was that the only job that women did in like the Army in World War I? I mean,
women were nurses in the Army. And I'm not sure if the nurses were actually considered part of the Army. Okay. Part of our story is that the telephone operators were, they applied for the job, they were accepted, they took the Army oath, they had Army uniforms, they had dog tags, they were subject to Army discipline. And when they came home, the Army said, "You're not in the Army, you're a contract worker for us." So they didn't get discharge papers. They didn't get any veterans benefits, anything like that. So
that's bogus.
Right.
That is so
They were
bogus.
in the Army while they were there, and they said, "We thought we were in the Army. We took the oath to be in the Army."
You're wearing the uniforms.
Right.
You got the dog tags.
Right.
And you're telling me
we don't have a signed contract, so we're not contract workers. But the Army did not do that, and that ended up being a 50-year battle or so. In 1977 is when they were finally granted veteran status.
1977?
Correct.
And a lot of them were probably deceased?
Most of them had passed away.
Yeah.
There were a few that were still left who got their honorable discharge papers. Of course, one of them asked for their back pay, but...
I mean...
Hey, why not?
I would. You know, that's ridiculous.
So yes, that's all part of their story. So they were not acknowledged as being the first female soldiers until 1977 when they were granted that status.
Is that about the time when this play or this musical was written, or was it written long before that?
Actually, this musical is a new one. It was written in 2018 to commemorate when the Hello Girls went over to join the war. The United States, although the war started in 1914, the United States didn't join until 1917. And they quickly realized that the communications over in France were a huge issue. The men were unaccustomed to telephone work because here in the United States that was considered women's work. And they
You mean to operate the switchboard?
To operate the switchboards,
yeah.
Yes. To operate the switchboards. Every phone call had to be connected manually. And also, they were connecting through the French switchboard operation system. And so you needed people who could speak French. So it was very slow. The communication wasn't happening. So they decided that they needed the female switchboard operators because that in the United States, AT&T, all their operators were female. And so they did the recruitment and brought the women over for that.
And I bet they were especially looking for like the women who had like French Canadian descent and probably knew some French.
Yes,
right?
they went through intensive language tests in order to be accepted as the telephone operators.
Do you know approximately how many? Did you look that up by chance?
Yes.
I know that's okay.
Actually, 7,000 women applied to be the telephone operators, and over 223 women actually were shipped to Europe during the struggle or during the war. There were more that were prepared to go, but then the war ended. So 223 actually went overseas.
So I guess getting to more of based on Hello Girls, do you know, I mean, obviously it's inspired by true events, but yes. Are there any particular people you know for sure that some of these characters were modeled off of, or is it just kind
Absolutely.
of...
Absolutely. We have, our lead is Grace Banker, and she was the chief operator for the first women's unit that went over there. She received the Distinguished Service Award, which is a very high award in the Army. And so she's a real person. There's 4 other Hello Girls that are featured in this show, and all 4 of them were actual women. Some of the dialogue that they have is not actually words that came from them, but the show was written based off of diaries that they have from the women at the time and based off of letters that the women wrote home. So they did take stories from several women and merge them into the 5 women that we're highlighting. And their the officer in charge of them, Lieutenant Reiser, he's a real person. And then General Pershing was the commander-in-chief of the American Expeditionary Forces that were sent over as well. So he's in there also. Wow.
So there actually is quite a bit of males in the cast then as well.
It was written for 5 females and 5 males. The 5 males, you had Lieutenant Reiser and you had General Pershing were that character the whole time. The other 3 males switch around and play all the other males that are in the show. We actually cast an additional male so that those extra parts are played by 4 men rather than just 3 men. And then we also cast 3 additional females to be in there just to bulk up the scenes and add a little more intensity to it.
Gotcha. So what's the music like in this show? Is it...
Wow, it's hard.
Is it?
It's amazing. The score is absolutely, it's crazy amazing.
Does it sound like music from that era, or is it influenced by other genres?
There's a variety of genres in there. Some of the songs are what you would call, your Broadway hit type songs. We have some songs, a lot of the songs have incredible harmony in them. We have one song, think of the Andrews Sisters. Now I know they're World War II, but it's still that feel to the song. We have one song that is very 60s in its feel, I guess would be the best way to say it. So the choreography is kind of fun to do for that song as well. But it's a variety of genres. The main thing is just the incredible harmonies, the counter melodies that are going on, where you've got, the 5 women singing in 3-part harmony while the men are singing a counter melody with different words, a different beat, and they're also in 3-part harmony.
Oh my gosh.
The music is it's fantastic to listen to. It's been very challenging. Our actors are really having a good time with learning it because it's not boring. it's really exciting.
It's a challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, but it sounds like a fun challenge.
It is. And when they hit it, oh my goodness, it's just incredible. I'm like, oh, I wish I could sing like that.
You get goosebumps. If I could
sing like that, I'd be on stage instead of directing. But,
you get on stage once in a while.
I do. Yeah. I occasionally get on stage, but more for character parts. Not
singing. Yeah.
Not for hardcore. I mean, I can sing, but the powerhouse singing of this cast is just blows me away. It gives me goosebumps.
Well, let's talk about that. Who's in the cast? Who are some of the people that you want to recognize from the cast?
Well, our lead, Grace Banker, is played by Sarah Sheehan, and she comes from up north. She's a theater veteran up there. This is her first show with KVTA.
Awesome.
She absolutely blew us away at the auditions. She's got a couple of songs where, again, she's one of the goosebump producers that we have. She is fabulous. The other 4 Hello Girl females, we have Mackenzie Testerman. For those of you who saw Seussical, she was Gertrude.
Okay.
The one feather tail bird. She plays Helen Hill, who is a farm girl from Idaho. So she's got a lot of really fun lines in there. We have Izzy Cospade, who is from Coal City, and she is playing Louise Le Breton, who was born in France. So she's got this French accent that she does the whole time. That very exciting. It is.
Yeah.
And she does a fabulous job with that. We have Asia Rogers playing Suzanne Prevost.
She always does a great job. She's been in several productions at this point.
Yeah, she's been in multiple productions. I love her voice. And Suzanne Prevost is a tough New Yorker, so it fits in really well with there. And our 4th extra Hello Girl is Rachel Toby Barrows, and she plays Bertha Hunt. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay.
And Bertha Hunt is she's an Army wife. Her husband is, and this is a true person, her husband was a doctor in the Army. He got shipped out. She didn't want to stay home and do nothing. So, she applied to become a Hello Girl. And she actually plays piano on stage, so it's really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So I'm assuming this takes place in France a lot of the time, right? Or does it go like back and forth, or?
It follows the women. So it starts in scene 1 is actually modern day, and then we invite you to come back and join us for this.
Oh, interesting.
And we start with the women finding out about the opportunity, and then there's a song about when they go to the recruitment office, and then they go through training, and then they ship over to France. And they also struggled because they wanted to go help on the front lines. And the men were saying, no, you have to stay back where it's safe. But the male telephone operators that they had out at the front lines couldn't keep up with the volume of the calls. So eventually a group of them were actually sent to the front lines. I did watch a documentary about World War I, and when they had the trenches set up, there were actually like 2 rows of trenches, which I didn't realize.
I don't think
that would have like
a
passage in between the 2 rows, and the back row is where the women would have been. So they weren't on the front line, but they were as close as you could get.
That's pretty close.
Yes, pretty close.
Yeah.
Just where the telephone communications, were based.
Wow. So I guess it would be important for people to know when the show is, what the dates are. I know they can go to kvta.org to get tickets.
Correct.
And then the shows are?
It's going to be Friday, July 26th through Sunday, July 28th. Our Friday shows at 7 p.m. Our Saturday and Sunday shows are both matinees, so they will be at 2 p.m. We are holding this at our Black Box Theater out at the studios, which is at 1 Stewart Drive in Kankakee. It's right by exit 308. We do have a sign out there now. Yay!
Yes, I did see that. I'm so glad it makes it so easier to find.
And if you've been to our Black Box studio, if you come see this show, you're going to see some changes because we reconfigured the performance space for this show. And we do have a live pit with the show as well.
No, really? We do. That's exciting.
It's a nine-piece pit orchestra conducted by Mike Schneider. So it's really, they're incorporated into the set. So come see it for that alone. It's really cool. We just built the set on Sunday. So it's super exciting.
Oh, man. Yeah, that makes me even more excited to go see it. So that sounds great. So what are some other things you want to get out about this show and let people know about?
You don't want to miss it. I mean, you really don't want to miss it. It is family friendly. So even though it's
a serious subject,
and it's a musical, obviously we've already talked about the songs. Even though it's a serious subject, it's, the language is fine. There's no vulgarities. There's nothing inappropriate for children. So it is, it's family friendly. The talent that we have on that stage, every single one of them is mic'd. And that's because every single one of them can really sing. Casting it was very difficult. The cast is just absolutely fabulous. And the vocal director, Bonnie Brewer, has been doing some fantastic things with them, getting them to be able to hit all those harmonies and that sort of thing. We have Jordan Clark, formerly Jordan Ward, who is our choreographer. And a couple of the songs are full out choreographed. Most of them are just movement, creative movement. So when we would do the choreography, the cast would show up and they're like, okay, what is this? We're like, movement. And they're like, okay. But it's really neat. It sets the tone for each of the songs that we're doing. And then, of course, I'm assisted by my assistant director, Rosie Labriola. She's doing a fabulous job supporting throughout all of that. That's my creative staff right there. Of course, we have extra staff beyond that.
Right.
Art's building the set, Aaron's decorating it. It's just, I think people need to come see this to learn about it. Frequently, World War I think, just gets swept to the side. Mm-hmm. People know a lot of things about World War II, but they don't really know a lot about World War I. It is the first international participation of the United States. It's where the United States kind of began to be recognized as a world power. Before that, they were very seclusionist, and they only dealt with things that affected their own shores. So it's the first time that they started to participate in the international arena, and did a fantastic showing, doing that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I didn't realize that either. So I love history. So this sounds like a show I need to go to.
Yeah, I'm not a historian. I'm learning about World War I as we go. Forgive me, historians, if I've said anything that's not actually correct. But you watch, to prep for it, you watch and you watch and you read and you read, and you have to educate myself.
Right.
So that we try to make it as authentic as we can. And that was what I told my creative team, is we're going for authenticity. The set is minimalist. And I did tell them that. I said, if it can't be authentic, we want it to be minimalist. So it's kind of an interesting combination. Like, the costumes are authentic. We are renting them from Joliet West High School. And they put a lot of research into making sure that the costumes are authentic. The costumes are authentic, but then our set pieces and our set itself is just minimalist. So it's kind of an interesting combination of the two.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, kvta.org to get those tickets, and hopefully see you at the show.
Yes.
Right? So
excellent.
Yeah. Anything else that you can think of? No? Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for dropping by.
Oh, you're welcome.
Really
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having us.
Yep, anytime. That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Kankakee Podcast. Shout out to Stephanie Vanderweide for supporting the show each month through Patreon. If you want your name announced on a future episode, you can sign up at patreon.com/Kankakee Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Chicago Dough Company, Noble Dairy Queen Stores, Frank's Appliance Center and Sleep Source, Pigosh Engineering, King Music, Little Me Studio, Taco John's, D. Westfall Jewelers, and Edward Jones Financial Advisor Adam Elroy. Kankakee Podcast is produced by the fine team at Pathfinder, a full-service marketing agency in downtown Kankakee. Learn more at yourpathfinder.io. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.